guys, it's Parker here at 2117 Collective. Today I'm going to show you how to make a cost-effective oak veneered desktop. This desktop is going into someone's home in a built-in space, so I've pre-cut my piece of pine ply to the space. I've got my 3M backed oak veneer, trim pieces to cover the front edge of the ply, wood filler, glue, the stain of choice, 2 cans of shellac, and some paste wax. So for the tools you'll need: a J-roller, a router with a tracing bit, a pin nailer, some clamps, some sandpaper, and some rags. And for PPE, you'll want a respirator, some safety glasses, and some disposable gloves. Okay, let's get started. So first off, we need a clean surface. So you can take an air nozzle or some rags, wipe off the surface, make sure it's free of debris. So next thing you want to do after you have a clean surface is look for any indents in the top of the plywood. The veneer is going to follow the exact surface, so if you have any indents in your wood, you need to fill them and sand them flat. Luckily, this piece doesn't have any. Next thing on the list, line up your veneer. To do so, you're going to want your veneer and a couple of small clamps. Because the veneer comes in a roll, it's a little hard to work with, so the clamps give you an extra hand in holding it down. And it's always very important to line up your veneer first, because you want to make sure you're straight with the piece the whole way and not shifted on accident. So now that we're lined up, let's start peeling.
I start by removing one clamp and peeling a corner back just enough so the adhesive can get a good first grab on the plywood. Then you'll remove the next clamp on that end and carefully peel back more of the adhesive backing to get that end fully adhered. You'll want to be delicate with the adhesive backing, keeping it all in one place and not shredding it. Doing so will allow you to have a slow and controlled peel and stick process. With the J-roller, you'll want to apply about 25 pounds of pressure to make sure the adhesive sticks permanently. When rolling, it's important to be conscious of the edge of the piece so as to not damage the veneer. Once you get to the end, you'll want to trim the excess, leaving about an inch or less of overhang. Around the corners, I found it safest to use the J-roller in a slow diagonal pattern.
Your veneer is attached, the excess is trimmed. You're going to want to take your J-roller over the top of this one more time in every direction. So forward, back, left, right, all the diagonals, and be careful with the edges and the corners. Don't forget that. So once you've spent a good amount of time making sure the surface is down, checking the edges, making sure there's no lifts anywhere, we're going to take our router and our tracing bit and trim off the excess flush to our desktop. So now that the veneer is flush trimmed to the piece of plywood, the next step is apply the oak trim to cover the exposed edges of the plywood. On this particular desk, the only exposed edges are here and here, so it shouldn't be too hard.
After I cut my 2 miters, I glue and loosely clamp the 2 trim pieces in place. Then I align the miter cuts and sink my first pin nail in the corner. From there, I work my way down each piece of trim, ensuring that it's flush with the top of the veneer the whole way down. Then I set the desktop in a clamp jig till the glue dries.
Okay, the trim is attached and ready to be worked with. Next thing to do is fill the pin nail holes. And to fill those, I like to use plastic wood. It has a really quick drying time, so you don't have to wait too long before you can sand.
For sandpaper, I use 220. Anywhere in the range of 180 to 220 grit will do just fine. For the trim edges, I prefer to hand sand to make sure I don't accidentally remove too much with the Orbital sander. Where the veneer meets the edge of the plywood, I like to break the edge just enough to prevent any future chipping.
The surface has been prepared and cleaned. The next thing to do is to apply the desired color. Now there's many ways to apply a stain. My favorite method is to dip the rag in the stain and then rub it into the wood, but you can use whatever method you'd like to.
When doing this process, it's always important to keep the stain moving to not get any inconsistencies in the layer. Long wipes in the direction of the grain will help get the stain in every nook and cranny of the wood surface. For this desktop, I applied 2 coats to achieve the color I wanted.
Once your stain's fully dried, next on the list is to seal it. The product I like to use for that is the Spray-On Shellac by Zinsser. I like it because if you're good with a spray can, getting a nice consistent coat is very easy. Adding additional layers is as simple as spraying on another coat, and after you've sanded and waxed, you get a hard to the touch, attractive finished look.
When spraying, you want to keep the nozzle a consistent distance across each pass of about 12 inches. Being consistent will allow the shellac to blend evenly and achieve a nice coat over the whole surface.
For this desktop, I did 5 coats of shellac. I would recommend a minimum of 3 coats. Once you've put your final coat on, you'll want to move the surface to a covered area to cure overnight. In the morning, you'll have a hard shellac surface that's ready for sanding and waxing.
For this step, I use a 3M sandpaper tool, 800 grit sandpaper, and a misting bottle to wet the sandpaper. A light wet sand for this step is important to not wear away too much shellac. This should get you a smooth rag wipe when finished. If anything catches your rag when cleaning up, you should readdress that area with more wet sanding. After that, it's time to start your first coat of wax. There are several types of paste wax. This just happened to be the tin that I grabbed. Applying the wax is similar to applying the stain. You'll want a clean rag, wad it up and get some wax on it, and swirl it with medium pressure onto the clean surface. You want to apply a thick enough layer to where you can see the swirl marks. Once you have a good layer of wax applied, let it set for 30 minutes. Then you'll take a clean rag and wipe off the excess wax. You'll be left with an invisible layer of wax over the entire piece.
After 3 coats of wax, my desktop has the feel I was hoping to achieve. Apply yours accordingly. I really like this method of finishing wood because the end result is always beautiful. All that's left now is install it in the space. Thanks for watching the video. Give us a like and subscribe. Till next time.